The question of who is the strongest celestial is a topic for debate, but today we wanted to explain Exitar the Exterminator, possibly the strongest celestial. Over the eons, the Celestials have overseen the creation of nearly everything in existence. They have woven previous multiverses into their shapes, and have crafted trillions upon trillions of unique organisms specifically for the purpose of study. Their entire objective is to measure the trajectory of what life is capable of, but even though they are often referred to as gods of space, they are not inherently benevolent. At best, they are completely amoral and have no emotional investment in any of their creations. At worst, however, they are genocidal warlords who exterminate entire worlds simply because the life upon them did not meet the standards of the Celestials. We know that Earth has been found itself on the chopping block on several occasions, and the Celestials had to be either convinced or tricked into understanding why Earth should be allowed to remain. So today, let's talk about one of the single most powerful Celestials in all of comics, a being that is a harbinger of genocide. Encountering a Celestial is incredibly dangerous. Any single Celestial can eradicate the vast majority of life in the cosmos, so to anger a Celestial is to ask for death. It doesn't, however, need to end this way. If a Celestial goes to visit an experimental world, there is still a strong chance that they will be pleased with the result of their experimentation, and will allow the world to live on in order to see what it becomes next. If, however, a world is ever to see Exitar the Exterminator, then it is too late. There is nothing to be done. By this point, the planet has made its case before Arishem the Judge, and the world in question has already had a chance to showcase the very best that it has to offer. Arishem has had the opportunity to study this world and what it is capable of. Yet, if Exitar arrives, the world will know that it has failed. Exitar's only purpose is to execute the worlds which are deemed to be failures. But remember, this is not done through any sense of malice or vengeance. The Exterminator Exitar takes no joy in culling worlds. It is a completely amoral step that is necessary in order to further the progress set forth by the Celestials. To call Exitar evil is subjective, as he is no more or less evil than the rest of the Celestials. He is just the one tasked with doing the dirty job. In Thor Annual number 14, it is claimed that Exitar's sheer size and power dwarf most of the moderate Celestials, including Arishem himself. Most Celestials appear in forms that are roughly 2,000 feet in height, but Exitar is 10 times that sheer size, clocking in at an astounding 20,000 feet tall. He is one of the single most physically imposing Celestials in the entire multiverse, which makes him one of the best enforcers that the Celestials have had. He is so large that his body is home to its own ecosystem, complete with organisms and planetoids, all revolving around him and living within his armor. His sheer magnitude puts the rest of the Celestials, even Arishem, to shame, and even though the Celestials are capable of changing their size, he still stands much taller than the rest of them, showcasing his importance. When Exitar was tasked with resetting the planet of Pangoria, Thor took notice and stepped in to save the planet from its imminent destruction. To Exitar, though, the god of thunder was little more than an annoyance and a gnat to be swatted away. Thor had to draw upon the deepest wells of his power and muster an attack known as the God Blast just to get Exitar's attention. This God Blast was called by Thor himself one of the strongest attacks that bore into the very depths of the Thunder God's power. He pushed himself to the absolute limit just to injure Exitar, and in the end, Thor would fail to save the world. Exitar reset the planet, leaving a few promising survivors that he was interested in seeing how they would progress. And then he sealed the planet off from the rest of the universe so that no one else would find it. Rather than killing Thor though, he issued him a warning and made Thor understand his place in the universe. The Celestials were the supreme judges of life, and if Thor was to survive, he needed to understand that a Celestial's judgment is worlds beyond his jurisdiction. He was playing with a fire that he did not understand, and Exitar warned him that if he ever interfered again, that Thor would burn. When the Celestials came into conflict with the Watchers, we saw Exitar step in and collide with the Watcher known as the One, who was sort of like a Watcher super soldier. While most of the Watchers are more or less passive beings, this was a Watcher warrior, one who was tasked with taking on physical conflicts whenever the Watchers found it necessary. He had the same cosmic abilities as the Watchers, but also had been conditioned for combat when necessary, and it wasn't long before Exitar's true power was revealed yet again. Despite being the strongest of the Watchers, Exitar battered the One onto the defense, and eventually was able to overpower and murder him. But although this is brutal, let's remember the true scale of the Celestials. Earlier, we mentioned that the Celestials are usually depicted as being around 2,000 feet tall, and that is by choice. Born during the first cosmos, the Celestials were the architects of the second cosmos, otherwise known as the first multiverse, and because of this, their fullest forms exist outside of the multiverse itself. The Celestials that we see on any given timeline are just a sliver of the true essence that each of the Celestials contains. Each Celestial's physical form is created by their higher sentience, so if they wanted to match Exitar's size, they very well could. The reason why they do not is because they are all in agreement that Exitar is the strongest among them, and should be able to visually convey this. His size does not make him stronger. His strength warrants his size. Since this is the way that Celestials work, and since the entirety of the Celestial is never present on the one timeline or another, they cannot be truly defeated by mortal means. The best that anyone can do is to exile this particular sliver of any Celestial in one dimension or another. But the overall integrity of an entire Celestial is still intact, and eventually, they will reconstitute themselves. The only time that the Celestials have ever been permanently killed are when the threats they faced extend beyond the realm of the multiverse. They have been killed by the Beyonders, the First Firmament, and many have been killed by the Aspirants before, but these are part of a very exclusive club. The amount of entities that can contend with the Celestials are just a microscopic fraction of the universe, and in all of these conflicts, Exitar is usually the one that is the last to fall. It is important to note that the title of Exitar is not strictly limited to just one Celestial, but as a title, it can be passed down to different Celestials in turn. Normally, this title is reserved for the strongest among them, but we've also seen previous incarnations of Exitar being brought back from the dead or reconstituted in some different way. Usually what happens is that on the rare occasion when Exitar is defeated, he is just pushed out of a reality or another. This happened with Sue Storm. After defeating the One, she was able to banish Exitar from this reality, but Uatu made it perfectly clear that Exitar was not dead. One day he would be back to finish what he started, and his full essence was only mildly inconvenienced. Each of the Celestials is immensely powerful, capable of forging entire universes. They are quite literally responsible for building the vast majority of everything, and not just this multiverse, but the previous other 5 multiverses as well. So their agreement with Exitar being the strongest should demonstrate just how formidable this one particular Celestial really is. He is a giant among giants, and the single worst Celestial that any planet in the multiverse could ever be visited by. But anyway, friends, what do you think of Exitar the Exterminator, the multiverse's strongest Celestial? Are his actions completely horrendous, or can they be justified because they are simply immoral and completely apathetic? Is he truly the strongest among them, or is there someone else that we need to consider? As always, my friends, smash that subscribe button for more Marvel lore, and have a great day.